Hi, I'm Ed DeMarco and I'm a realtor in Naples, Florida. And today I'm doing a video on the new wave of title fraud and fake owner or owner impersonation scams sweeping the nation. I'm going to show you the inner workings of these scams based on the communication of a scammer who approached me to try to get me to sell their property on their behalf. I'm going to show you how I was able to spot this scam. And then I'm going to go on to provide you with a number of completely free tools you can use to make sure you never fall victim to these scams. And while that is a bold claim, I do believe that by the time you're finished watching this video, you will see through all the different ways I was able to verify this was a scammer, that there's no reason you should ever have to worry about falling victim to one of these scams. And then I will be wrapping this up by calling the scammer himself and seeing what he has to say with all of the information I've unearthed on him. I've already made this call and you'll definitely want to stay and watch it till the end. Also, towards the end of the video, I've included my very favorite tool for busting scammers, one which I was not using at the time the scammer contacted me, but I sure wish I was. And now you'll have the benefit of using that tool right from the start. So let's get started. All right, to provide a little background on the scam, I'm just using this as one of the many articles I've read to do research for this video. This one happens to be put out by the Florida Realtors, of which I'm a member. And here you can see what you'll see in most of the public awareness media about these type of scams, a description of the scam. As you can see here, forged deeds, driver's license, titles, etc. continue to grow as real estate theft scams, in part because the tactic often works, and when it does, nets a criminal hundreds or thousands of dollars in fake real estate sales. They even now have a name, title pirates. So I'm going to be showing you how to defeat pirates in this video. And here you can see fraudulent real estate sales are on the rise. The FBI's Internet ICC warns that the losses from real estate and rental scams are steadily increasing, and they've reached over 396 million last year. I do know people who have fallen victim to these scams, and here's the reason I decided to go ahead and make this video, because as these articles proceed, they always, when it gets to the part about how do we, as real estate professionals or title agents or buyers or parties in a real estate transaction, how do we avoid becoming a victim of this scam? We get very generic and ambiguous advice like this. Paying attention to details is the most important role a real estate professional can play to protect their clients from title fraud. Geez, I never thought about that. I should pay attention to details. A real estate's professional closing transaction, so normally a title agent, needs to pay particular attention to the documents. No kidding. And as it goes on, professionals should immediately look at discrepancies or irregularities in documentation. This is pretty common sense, but how do we go about doing it? And the final bit of advice, we'll insist on an in-person closing rather than a remote or mail-away closing, which I gotta say, with me being an investment broker, probably the majority of the deals I've done do involve either a buyer or a seller who's either out of state or even out of the country. So that's not really a solution either. And that's why I decided to create this video, so we could go beyond the generic advice and really get into the details of how we beat these scammers. So let's go ahead and get started. So here, as promised, this video is going to be based on an actual scammer who has contacted me. And here you can see how the scammer initiated contact. Pretty good initial showing for the most part. This is a authentic realtor.com lead to my agent online profile. Of course, anyone can send these. And he makes a pretty good overall first impression. A well-written statement here. inquiring about your services for selling a vacant lot that I own. He's going in through some specifics he wants in an agent. I understand the pricing of a vacant lot can be challenging. That's pretty true, depending on the lot. And he wants a agent who is responsive and communicative through the selling process. It's a good idea. He wants to be kept informed of any updates or developments related to the sale of the property. Sounds like a pretty well-informed seller that knows what they want. And for me, when this comes in on October 21st, 2023 on a Saturday morning, I'm looking at it, and the first thing that catches my attention is there's no phone number attached to it. And you can see here, DeMarco prefers contact by email. So for me, I'm just not taking this lead very seriously for that particular reason. And the other thing that kind of catches my attention is I'm pretty sure this is a AI written inquiry. I'm just morbidly curious when I get this lead, and I just want to make sure it's not my imagination. And if you ever are looking at something and you're not sure if it's AI, I'm going to show you the golden standard tool to use. Like every other tool, that's completely free. There's no sign up involved, and I'm of course completely unaffiliated with any of these tools. No one is sponsoring this video. So let me show you how I determined this was in fact an AI generated statement from the seller. So here I am at Microsoft's GPT-0. Microsoft is the now owner of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT. And this is their landing page. So as you can see here, you don't have to sign up or do anything else. It will detect all the various different Google Bard, whether it's GPT-4, etc. tools. And here I've just copy and pasted the lead into it. And I'm going to check to see if it is in fact an AI generated lead. And here we can see 98% probability this text was entirely written by AI. So that's not disqualifying in itself, but now I can verify that this isn't the actual writing of whoever's sending the email. And that gets me off to a good start here. So with me knowing I've gotten this AI generated lead without a phone number, perhaps in a bit of a passive aggressive streak, I go ahead and open my ChatGPT 4 and I ask it to write a response noting it's a small property. It would be subject to a minimum commission amount because of how small the sale is. And that if he is still interested and wishes to proceed, he can arrange for a call, as this is as far as I'm going to work with anyone who isn't providing a phone number. And historically, that hasn't been for fraud purposes. It's been because I'm just not taking anyone seriously. So at this point, I don't know what this person's deal is. I put it out there and just move on to my next thing. I do eventually get a response from DeMarco saying, hey, that sounds pretty reasonable. How do we proceed? And I ignore it because there's no phone number in it. And so the day later, I get another email saying, hey, I'm not sure if you got my email, but I wanted to know about how we could proceed. And I respond by writing that, hey, I didn't get a phone number from you. And so the next step would be to arrange a call. And he does promptly respond with a US phone number and says, sure, I'm available right now for a call. And by this time, we're at about 9 a.m. Monday morning. So I begin to take it a little bit seriously. I begin to say, hey, okay, the guy sounds interested. He's okay with the basics of my terms, and he wants to discuss it. He's willing to do a phone call. Let's talk about it. So I pull up the property information at the tax assessor's website, and I have it all in front of me, and we do the call. During the call, he presents pretty well during the first phone call. He knows the details that I'm looking at on the public record inside and out. I even, at some point, just test him by saying, and you bought the property in 2004. He says, no, I bought the property in 2005, which was the correct last purchase date. I ask him stuff I already know. Are there any liens, mortgages, anything on the property? He says, no, I own it free and clear, and which my public records is showing is accurate. And so he makes a pretty good impression on me. It is obvious from talking with him that English is his second language, which of course is not a problem for me at all. Historically, I've worked with owners of properties from all over the world. Owning a big property management company back in Clearwater, I would get owners from all over the world that own property in the States that would contract me, and I would do it all, of course, remotely and virtually, which I still do. But back then, these kind of scams were pretty much unheard of. I do want to quickly say that as I was researching what's on the public domain about these types of scams and scams in general, you will look for incorrect grammar, typos, all this kind of stuff. That doesn't really apply if you're a real estate professional in the real estate industry or real estate finance industry, or you are in any way subject to fair housing laws because you own multifamily property, whatever the case may be. And hopefully you know where I'm going with this. If I were to say this guy doesn't speak good English and therefore I'm not interested in working with him, hopefully you've already caught where I'm going with this. And that is, it's a very blatant violation of the letter and spirit of the fair housing laws. That would be discrimination based on national origin and possibly other protected classes. And that would rightly get you slapped with a big lawsuit if a fair housing testing caller were to call you and you were to disqualify them because their English wasn't up to whatever standard you might have for it. So during the first phone call, I was still thinking this guy's probably legitimate. What stood out to me, though, was he was using a Missouri phone number. And on my T-Mobile scam checker caller ID feature, it showed it was a Bandwidth LLC. It's a Missouri number, and the owner of this property main address is in Illinois. I frequently work with owners who own property in multiple states, so that wasn't a tell in any way, but it got me to go on to the next stage of the project that we're going to get into now, which is checking public domain databases to see if the information of the scammer, which at this point I still don't even know if it's a scammer, is the contact information associated with the actual owner or not. And that's what we're going to do next. All right, so for this section of the video, I'm going to show you how to use currently the 3 best online data brokers, free online data brokers for finding people's personal information, which if you're in real estate investing, doing title work, mortgage information, this is stuff that you really should be using. And I've been using these kind of tools I've been in real estate since 2005 and investing since 2004. So I've gotten real familiar with all the premium ones. The free ones tend to change quite a bit as far as the leading free ones. So this is as of the date of this video. And the 3 websites, the links will be in the description, I'm going to be using today are fastpeoplesearch.com, truepeoplesearch.com, and searchpeoplefree.com. And I've tested each of these 3 running my own information and the actual owner of this property's information, and I got pretty good data, which is typical of both the free or paid ones. You're normally going to be lucky if you're getting about 75% good data from the results. The main reason we're going to want to run a potential scammer's contact information or other verifiable data through this is it can give us a number of big warning signs to look for. For example, I'm going to put in the scammer's line, which I know is a bandwidth.com number. Here you can see the number the scammer used, and I got the same exact result from all 3 of the websites. it had no information. And that's because this is a new burner number. And I also know from doing some information security work that bandwidth.com is a massive company. And with the way they contract out their phone services, they're used by a large number of telemarketers, scammers, and legitimate companies alike. So that makes it a little tougher. My T-Mobile scam shield did show it as a landline, which at the front end looks good for the person. It's a US landline, but it obviously is a VoIP. So all of these tools, the best we're going to do is get some warning signs. Now, of course, the way we find the actual owner's information is by doing the same thing the scammer did to get it. We go to the county's property appraiser's website and pull the owner's data off of there. It's going to have the official owner's name and tax mailing address, which in Florida will often be out of state. These scams usually will target a owner that doesn't live at the property. In the case of my scammer, it's vacant land, which is actually owned by an out-of-state owner. So I have here with the phone number, one strike for the scammer. So I'm here on truepeoplesearch.com, and I've used their free no sign up email search, and it is not finding any results. And that is because the scammer just registered this email address. He used the actual owner's first and last name and an outlook.com, which is Microsoft email address. And the actual owner's profiles did not show this email associated with it. When I just searched directly by email address, it's not showing any person's information used by it. Doesn't mean that this is a tell that it's not the actual owner. The actual owner could have gotten a new email. It takes a while for your information to get bought up by the data brokers and put into these systems. But this is another big red flag. And I've just redacted the owner's last name since it is the actual owner. Here on searchpeoplefree.com, I've went ahead and put in my historic and current cell phone number. I've had this number for a long time. It's advertised publicly. It's on my website. So I'm simply redacting this. Anyone that wants can look at my name in the video, put it in here and get all this information. I'm doing this to make YouTube's AI happy, as I'm not supposed to display any personally identifiable information. And that's also why I'm not showing you what a normal record would look like. Basically, the entire page has to be redacted with the amount of detail that these services provide. But here, what I like about searchpeoplefree.com especially is that it's showing that this is a cell phone, and my provider, Sprint, now T-Mobile, that it's active and that it's not reported as a spam number. When I ran the bandwidth.com number that the scammer used through this, it just simply had no information on. So this is what a legitimate long-time phone number would usually come back with. So these are the three tools. I found that fastpeoplesearch.com had the most kind of detailed and clear information right in the front end. True People Search includes the email lookup, which Fast People Search doesn't have. And then the Search People Free has the phone and email lookup. I found the information they had was pretty much the same. They're all buying the data from very similar or the same sources. These tools can really help you track if the person contacting you is doing so from a email or phone number or mailing address that's actually associated with the actual owner. In the case of the scammer that's contacted me, he has struck out across the board. That made it very easy for me to determine that this was a scam. And hopefully with these tools and the other ones I'm providing you in this video, I'm giving you a lot of ways to catch the scammer, and there should really be no reason you have to fall victim to one of these scams ever. All right. At this point in my interactions with the scammer, after I used the free tools I showed all of you how to use in this video, to confirm that based on the contact information this scammer is using, it doesn't seem to be the actual owners. I'm going to put my confidence this is a scam at north of 98%. But I'm not completely sure, and I don't want to risk it just in case in the unlikely event this is the actual owner. I don't want to offend them. So I once again go back to my ChatGPT and prompt it to create an email saying that my system and my fraud department, that system and fraud department is me, has flagged his information as potentially being fraudulent, and I will need a identification for him and his wife if we're going to proceed. And I'm thinking this is going to be the last I will hear from DeMarco. And as you see, ChatGPT did a pretty good job here of generating a kind of boilerplate email here. I send this as basically a very polite F you. And I suspect this will be the end of this interaction, and I'm off to the next thing. Imagine my surprise when I get this relatively quick response with a state driver's license with the general information from the public record that I've pulled up about the actual owner on it. So for just a brief moment, I thought to myself, geez, is this guy actually legit? Hopefully you're already looking at the driver's license here, and I verified that no, there are irregularities. This is, now I've confirmed, absolutely a scam. So as we read in the article, this is one of the areas that a lot of scammers tend to be pretty weak on. The details in the actual documents themselves. The license itself looks pretty good compared to what a Illinois driver's license should look like. After I got this one from him, I was so curious that I couldn't help trying to get a little bit more, even though I knew it was a scam. And at this point, if I didn't decide I'm going to make a YouTube video on this, this would be a really good time to just go ahead and stop all communication with who you know is a scammer, notify the actual owner, which I did, and discontinue it. But since I'm doing this video, I drag it out to probably an unhealthy extent. So I know this is clearly a scam, but for educational purposes, I decide I'm going to see what else I can get from him. So I write him back. And this time it's actually me, right? I'm not sure if our compliance officer, that's me, let me proceed with just one ID. So rather than trying to get his fake wife's ID, I want to just get, let's see here, do you have any property documents not available online, such as its closing statement, paid tax receipts, or notarized affidavit of ownership I can submit? Unfortunately, land fraud is on the rise, so we have to take certain steps to protect the interest of the owners. And I did read on one article, hey, what you want to do is get one of these documents from the person claiming to be the owner, because a scammer won't have these documents. Now, during the phone call we're going to hear that I do with the guy presenting as DeMarco, he mentions anything you need, I can get it for you. you need closing statements, you need some paid tax receipts, notarized affidavit of ownership, I got you covered. Yeah, that itself, they have a very good back office at these scams, and they will provide you with anything that you require of them. And I will note that I did view just now the fake license through a Gmail proxy. And as Google rightly points out here, still only download attachments from people you trust. And at this point, I don't trust this guy. So let's get into some image analysis now. All right, so I'm going to start with the document part here. Even though I've established this is a fake driver's license, I'm still going to redact it because YouTube does not like what the AI picks up as sensitive information on it. With that being said, this was the fake ID for Domingo. And as you can see here, at first glance, it looks pretty decent. As you've had just a moment to look at it here, hopefully you've noticed a few irregularities. So the date of birth he has is 1990 and his weight of 85 pounds. Other than that, it looks pretty good for a digital image. And the other giveaway, other than obviously he looks a little older than the 33 years there. This number, from looking it up, the 6-5, should match the birth year. So it should be 9-0. Aside from that, what I have here is loaded first of all, I've downloaded it into a disposable virtual machine. This happens to be a Linux Parrot virtual machine. And I did that because anytime you get a download from someone on the internet, there's a real good possibility it's got a virus, especially if you're dealing with somebody who's already up to criminal activity. If they can get something in your PC that will allow them to spy on you, which is not unheard of in these scams, then they're probably going to want to do that. By using a disposable virtual machine, and these are all free tools still. This is Oracle VirtualBox. I'm able to delete, it can, even if it gets my hardened Linux Parrot virtual machine and custom firewall and everything, I'm still going to be deleting it right after this video, right after I'm done with the document. So that's a relatively safe way to do it. Here on the left panel, I've uploaded it into a image viewer. And as you can see here at the top, it came with this long name on it. The way the image presents is it's presenting as it was taken on his phone. So if I zoom in a little bit here I'm looking at, on the left, I'm looking at the metadata. And what stands out about this image, 4.7 megabytes, that's about the size of a high definition photo taken from a phone, maybe a little bit large. But I'll show you an example of an actual photo I've taken of my paddleboard and what will show up here in the metadata. So in the metadata area over here, you'll notice it's all blanked out. So it's been scrubbed. And for somebody presenting as someone who's a little older and isn't that good with technology, that's an unusual step to take. So already here we can see the 85 pounds in the driver's license, the birth year of 1990, which incidentally would put him at 15 years of age, which you usually cannot take title to property at 15 years of age, when he alleges to have purchased the property in line with the public records. But like I said, other than that, if he had put in maybe even a 185 pounds, and had just matched the 65 there with the 1965, it wouldn't be a bad looking fake document. And just doing online research, it is hard to find legitimate ones. You can find a ton of people selling these for not much money, fake driver's license, that is. I'm going to go ahead and move on to showing you an example of a photo I've taken. And here's the photo of my paddleboard that I took with my cell phone. And as you can see here on the left in the metadata, we have real detailed images. First of all, the file size is only 1.2 megabytes. And this is a high definition real world photo. So when you look at the previous image at 5.4 megabytes, it wouldn't be inconceivable that there could be a malicious file in there. I did not detect one as I ran it through some stuff that's a little bit more advanced in the scope of this video. While this is a Linux tool, whether you're on Apple, Windows, Android, or iPhone, you can just, in whatever your preferred app store, just simply put in metadata analyzer or metadata examiner, and it will pull up countless tools that will let you view, this is the metadata that's in every photo you take. And here you can see the date I took it. You can see the exact time I took it. You can see my camera and my phone model. the ISO image, even the details about the lens, the exposure, the way my Google Pixel labeled the photo with just a much more simple default name. This is obviously a good way to detect if a document you have, especially if it's being presented as being taken on a typical camera or scanner, is suspicious or not. And this is the photo I got after trying to get the scammer to send me a title or something just for my own curiosity. He instead sent his alleged wife's photo. This is, the name on it is, which is why it's redacted, is the actual owner's, one of the owner's names per the public record of the property. And now here, this one, at least at first sight, it's a little bit easier to spot irregularity because of this giant gap up here above the head. Here, now the age, they overshot a little bit here on 53 for what the person in the photo looks like. And the weight, hey, I don't know if that would be in the ballpark or not, so I'm going to reserve comment on that. However, I did redact the eyes because I'm sure this is not the owner's or the scammer's photo. I don't know whose it is. I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. So I went ahead and redacted that, but the eyes did appear to be blue, brown. So that was another giveaway. And once again, just from looking it up, this 52 should match the 53. So they were close. Once again, it wouldn't have taken a lot of work if they put together the better elements of these two IDs, even stuff like if the last name begins with a G, then the license number is supposed to start with a G. So even that was done correctly. So with a little work, these driver's licenses could have been much harder to detect, especially if you weren't already looking for something out of order. And looking at the metadata, once again, we have this weird name up here. We have a pretty big file size, relatively big file size, not that it by itself isn't proof. And we have the very suspicious no metadata here in the top left. So between all of these signs here and this, which is just one of several tools I'm giving you in this video, would provide enough to give you reason to be concerned about or establish between the two identity photos just by themselves that we've caught that these are not legitimate IDs and this is a scam. All right, so this tool is pretty cool and somewhat helpful. This is fakeimagedetector.com. There's no sign up. You just go to the website. It'll be in the video description and you'll be able to simply upload your image here. So I ran the driver's license presented as the scammer's wife through this software, and it did say looks like a computer generated or modified image here. So on the surface, this looks like a total score. And here you see the ELA analysis. The only problem is I also ran the main scammer's driver's license through this, and it reported it looked fine. So it, for whatever reason, only caught one of the two images. From playing with the software for a while, I found that it's much more likely to produce a false negative than a false positive. I submitted what I knew were actual photos I've taken into it, and every time it verified they were real photos. But when I created some photos with AI and submitted it, it had a pretty big hit or miss margin. So if this does flag it as a computer generated image, that is a big red flag because it does apparently err on the side of caution. I did try a number of other AI image analyzers and they were interesting, but as I really got into them and I was sitting there playing with them, it was getting really complex. So for the purpose of this video, as far as a free fake image document detector goes, this is going to be the best they have right now. And like I said, at best, it's 50% accurate. All right. So for the winner of the best free tools to catch a scammer, I've actually selected GeoTrack, and here we can see why. So this is a free Chrome extension, and by the time I had installed this tool, I was using it for the purpose of this video. If I had this tool already installed from the beginning, I would have never even gotten on the phone call with this person. And here we can see why this person is presenting to be in the United States, but he is in fact in Ota, Nigeria. And he is looking at this email on an iPhone. Here you can see device name. And this tool gives you limited free tracking, but it worked very well. This tool does have some limitations. All right, here you can see that the tool has showed me what I presume is pretty accurate. The location that the scammer was using when he sent, and I got all the the actual IP addresses, everything for free. So here he 2 different cities in Nigeria, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it could be that part of the scam is operated from Romania, but it was also open in Romania. Now, here's the limitation of the tool. This is me opening the email in the States, and I am not actually I'm in Naples, that's a Miami server, Georgia, and North Carolina server. So I, as just a security precaution, use a encrypted VPN, and I can change my VPN to put me anywhere in the world I want. I don't think they include a Nigeria server, but I can show myself opening it from Canada, from whatever, South America, from Mexico, from Africa, from Saudi Arabia. So I can, anywhere my VPN has a server, I can instantly show it. The scammer, what was really cool was, even though the GeoTrack website or Chrome listing, which I'm going to go ahead and switch to that now. So even though here at the Chrome web store where I downloaded, after a lot of research, it is tough. When I started using email trackers, when they first came out, it's probably 15 years ago, they would show me all of this information. But now with all the GDPR and a lot of the other privacy stuff, not a lot of, including the trackers I used to. So here you can look at all these free email trackers. They're just showing you the time it was open, if it was open, and the device it was opened on. So that by itself isn't going to really be helpful as far as tracking a scammer is concerned. But this GeoTrack, which is, as you can see here, pretty new. It's only 68 reviews, 10,000 users. It had very few restrictions when I first installed it. It's hard to tell what's going on with it in my dashboard. But this, when I installed it, it made it very easy. I just simply sent an email. There was nothing in the email, which is typical with any normally premium email tracker. They put a 1 pixel image into it that you can't see with the naked eye. And that allows the software to, when that image is basically accessed, then they can track the information on that. But right now, GeoTrack is actually doing it, and they're doing a great job of it. And I will say that if I hadn't been able to use this, or I will also point out another limitation of this. When I first tested it by sending it from my business to my personal email, I have both my business on Google Enterprise Gmail servers, so even though it's naplesed.com, it's going through a Gmail server, and a personal Gmail address. When I received the test email I sent to my personal Gmail address, Google opened it from a proxy server. Apparently, Microsoft Outlook did not use the same to protect the privacy of the scammer. But for Google, when I sent it to myself at first, it noted in the GeoTrack dashboard that it was being opened from a proxy server. And so they were not showing it on the map to avoid me from becoming confused. Thank you. That is a limitation. This may not really work. It did show the fact that it was open. That's about all it did for my Gmail, because it was open from a private, even though I was accessing it from a Chrome browser on my mobile phone. It showed as a Firefox browser in California, which was actually Google opening it through a proxy. Apparently, Google is using Firefox. But that is another limitation. So if any number of limitations with this email tracking software does fail you, or you don't feel like dealing with it, there's a really pretty awesome and creepy free tool out there. And I have tested this. I have used this. And the only catch is you have to make basically a phishing email for the person you want to open it. But I can enter a URL tracking code for any website. Here, I'll just put in my own website. So naplesed.com. I'm going to create a URL for it. And here we go. Here I can, first I'm going to go ahead, and it has a smart logger feature. If you're going to track someone, you might as well do it all out. And here is the access link. So the access link is for me. I'm going to go ahead and open this up from, I'll just do it in the same browser and watch what I do here. So in the browser here, I'm going to paste the link, and you can see here in the link, it's Grabify Inc. And and when I enter that link, it appears like it sent me right to my website. Now you can see in the website, the Grabify link, it's not there. It's HTTPS. And what it did is redirect it. But if we go back to our Grabify, here on the access link, I'm just going to copy this, and I'll just enter it here so it'll update. And boom, this is a result of me entering the Grabify link into my browser in the same browser. And let's see here, it has the exact time I accessed it. It has my IP address. This is where the current VPN I'm using is routing through. That I'm using a landscape browser. I'm not in an incognito, that there's no ad blocker. That is my screen resolution of the screen I'm on. It even has my GPU information. Yikes. My browser, that's my browser. That is my operating system I'm currently on. And user agent, Mozilla, Chrome, Safari, yeah. And Windows 32 on a 32-bit system. And that is a contractor for my VPN. So there, the only catch is you have to, like I said, essentially create a phishing email to make this one work. But it will work as long as you get the person to click on it. So you would simply put a link. If you are going to say something and you're not sure the person's a scammer, you can just take the actual website you want the person, whether it's a Google Drive document or whatever, copy this on it, and it will get them, and it will get them even if their Gmail is using a proxy browser. The only thing it won't get it is the IP address if they're behind a VPN. But this is a good backup option. So hopefully with all these tools, you've found quite a few that you can use. Using the actual scammer that contacted me, I've shown you quite a few ways we could easily identify it was a scam. I've obviously gone and done it to a overkill extent for the purpose of this video. In practice, if you do catch that you're dealing with a scammer, you want to immediately terminate the communication and notify the other potential victims that somebody is trying to impersonate them and commit fraud. All right, so I'm going to move on to the final section here. Okay, it's time to call and confront the scammer and see what he has to say for himself. I'm hoping that if you made it this far in the video, you've gotten a lot out of it. If you could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and maybe even leave a comment. I will be deciding on what videos to produce for my new channel based on the number of likes and subscribes I get from each video. I look forward to bringing you a lot of great content in the immediate future. And so if you could please do that, let's go ahead and see what this scammer has to say for himself.
Time to confront the scammer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome, I can hear you too.
This call is now being recorded.
Shit, sorry.
This call is now being recorded. Call recording ended.
All right, sorry about that. Otherwise, it's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over some basic stuff for the listing real quick. So I see here on the deed, it's owned by a tenant in the entireties, meaning a husband and wife. Josepha is your wife, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. And I also see, or I just want to make sure I have everything right, based on the IDs you sent me. So when you got this property, you were 15 years old and your wife was 52 years old, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. And quick personal question. I noticed you're only 85 pounds on your driver's license, which is impressive. I've been trying to lose weight for a while. What's your secret?
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see here. At this stage, do you have any questions for me?
No. Not at all.
Okay, beautiful. As we go to closing, what other documents do you have available for the closing agent?
Currently, I don't have nothing on me right now, but if anything is needed, you can let me know.
Okay, beautiful. You won't have any problems getting whatever's needed.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me ask you, how long have you been doing this for?
What?
How long have you been doing this for?
Doing what for?
Well, I noticed that you're in Nigeria there.
What did you say?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You said what?
I said, I couldn't help but noticing you're there in Nigeria.
Nigeria?
Yeah, in Amina or Oshodi.
What do you mean?
Well, I have all your IP records. So I'm just curious, because I've been in real estate for a long time. How successful are these type of things normally?
I don't understand.
I'm just real curious how the scam works, or how well they work.
I don't understand.
I'd be able to tell you how I managed to figure it out real quickly.
Well, there's Nick.
Or do you have any information? How successful are you normally at getting agents to list a property? Does this work well usually? Are you still there? All right, deny till you die. That's it.